Annie. This is Annie. Annie has been buying and selling, but mostly collecting for 30 years. Past president of National Button Society and judging chairman of New Jersey State Button Society and Pennsylvania Button Society. She is a classification co-chair of Division I of National Button Society and board member of Florida State Button Society. We welcome Annie.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. We're going to review 2 awards that we're doing virtually for the New Jersey New Jersey members. And we're going to go through the steps on how to put together a tray and how to judge a tray. And our first award is shown on the screen. It's section 20-3 astronomical, 15 buttons, any size. Try to present at least one of each of the following: the moon, the planets, the sun, meteors, shooting stars, comets, and stars. The first thing you have to do is see that this is written in section 20-3, and then you go into your blue book glossary and you look up, and here it even tells you, look up on page 57. And it will tell you exactly the kinds of things that can be included in this award and the kinds of things that cannot be included. And as I put together a judging sheet, this is what I actually used to come up with criteria to judge. So it tells you you can have the moon with or without a face, waning and waxing. You have to have a planet. The sun, you can have it with or without rays, shooting stars, and stars. And you can have multiple stars in the sky, a moon or stars over a scene, or accompanied by other subjects, as long as the moon and or the stars are predominant. I'll talk about that in a little while. That's not so easy to do. Multiple stars, symmetrically arranged stars, single stars, crescents, a crescent shape, star shape, all of these are allowed in this award. But you can't include things like rain, snow, lightning, rainbows, aurora borealis, or anything like that. So now let me see if I can get the next thing up that I wanted to include. I'm going to show you my judging sheet. Okay. And I'm going to put up my tray, if I can figure out how to get that up there. Bear with me 1 second. Get that up. Okay. Am I sharing again? No. Screen share. Okay, so I'm going to try to put both of these up here together. This is the tray that I put together so we could go through with examples. If you look at my judging sheet on the left, you'll see basically I took all the words out of the description and made those the important things to look for. The first thing is that the award asked is that you have at least one of each of the items listed. And let me see if I can make this a little bigger. I don't know what this is here for, what that means. Oops. Screen sharing. I'm trying to. I guess I can't get it quite bigger, but I'll be able to zoom in on it, I think. Okay. If you look at the tray, obviously I have a moon with a face right here. So first of all, I have the moon, I have a planet. This is a sunrise. Hopefully you can see this button is a sunrise right here, the black glass button. You can see the sun coming up. I have the shooting star or comet, and I have the regular star. So I have all 5 items. So I would give myself 1 point here. See if this works. Oh, it does. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have a moon with a face. And I do. So I'd give myself a point there.
Well, the reason I thought that
I have a moon without a face, which is my crescent moons. They have no faces. So that gets a point. I also have the crescent shape, which is right here, in the vegetable ivory. So I give a point here.
Excuse me,
And then I
Annie.
have, yes,
Excuse me, Annie. Is Johnson in the house?
yes.
We could hear him.
Hold on 1 second. Okay. And then I have the planet. Where'd that go? Right there. So I'm gonna give a point for that. We saw the sun in the sunrise. And the reason this is redundant, one of each, because some people might not be able to find a planet button. They're not easy. So you get a point if you have all 5, but then you get a point for each one you have. So it might be that you have 5 and 5, or you might have, you might not get this top point. You might only have 4 of these or 3 of these. If you couldn't find a shooting star, they're a little harder to find. The planet's difficult to find. When you get into the stars, you're going to look for these categories. Multiples in the sky, which could be this one. I'm going to stop putting the points in there until I get to the end. Multiples, you can have a single star, which is here or here. A star in a scene, which probably could be any of these. The one thing I did find when I was trying to find like a building with lots of stars in the sky, but the thing you have to remember is that means the building is going to be predominant. So in this particular category, I think we have to be a little more lenient and say that would qualify. It's like this sun. I call this one the sun. Well, the sun is not really predominant. I would say that the birds are predominant, but it's very hard to find a button with a sun that that's obviously a sun and not just a big round button with, unless it's a big button that has rays or something like that. So in a scene, this would be the sun. So say I got all these points. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would subtotal them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 points. And because this is the most important thing in the award, I'm going to double these points and make it 18. Okay. After this, you're going to start to look for multiple materials. There's a couple of ways. Let's see if I can get this any bigger. There are a couple of ways. I'll do it smaller, actually. A couple of ways to count materials. There's absolutely no need to sit down and write down all the materials that are here. If I had 15 materials and another tray had 15 different materials, we'd still both get 15 points. So the easiest way to do this is there's 2 ways. You either count the materials, you have a little hashtag piece of paper, which I always have which we always use in judging. You count the different materials, or you just count the duplicate materials and subtract. So I'm going to show it to you both ways. And I wrote down all the materials on here to help people out. So this button is composition 1. The white metal is different. Black glass is different. This is a brass button. This is an enamel button. Here's another brass button. So I can go -1. Ceramic toll is a separate material. Vegetable ivory, tortoiseshell, plastic, pearl, wood, celluloid, and glass satin metal. So we know we had 15 buttons in this award. -1 means I have 14 materials. That's the easiest way to do it. You can also just hashtag all the materials. I only happen to have 1 duplicate on this particular tray. So my material count here is 14. Okay,
Annie, just a question from the chat.
sure.
You're going to show us the judging sheet afterwards, correct?
You're not seeing the judging sheet?
No, I don't think you can do both at once.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll show it to you afterwards then. I had, my screen has them both up there. That's why I thought you were looking at both of them.
Well, let's see.
If you share your desktop and not a specific window, you can see both. But if you just share a specific window, you cannot.
Well, I don't know how to share the desktop.
It was just an option when you went to share.
I think we keep going and then you can.
Okay.
Let's just do, yes.
Okay, then I don't have to put all that in there. Okay. So now you're going to count other material embellishment, and what we commonly say OME, and hopefully you understand what that is. That it's just a different material on the base of the button. So when you're looking at this composition, I have the other material embellishment I have is pearl and steel. So that would be 2 points for that. You go along, this doesn't have anything, this doesn't have anything. This has steel, but we've already counted that. So we're still at 2 points for other material embellishment. And again, it's not necessary to write them all down unless it makes you more comfortable. Here, this is an enamel button with pearl and steel, so they'll get another point for the pearl. This is a brass button, and these are pewter stars on here. So you get a point for pewter. This doesn't have any other material. This doesn't. You're looking at the tortoiseshell button, and that's brass in the center. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's a brass star in the center. So that's another OME. Here again, you have brass, so that doesn't give you any more points. This is considered a wood button, and this is bone, which is the other material embellishment. And I believe on the, oh, and this is a celluloid. This one is glassette and metal, and it also has paste as an embellishment. So I've got a total of 7 OMEs on this tray.
Katrinka has a question about that. Katrinka,
Yes.
ask it.
Okay,
She can unmute and ask.
I was looking at your composition button that had pearl and steel, and then the one right below it also has pearl and steel.
Oh,
And I-
you're right. You're right. So I have to take the pearl off.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Thank you. You're right.
Oh,
You're right. I
thank
should have
you.
known. Yeah, see, that's why you always have 2 judges when you're judging a tray, because sometimes the experts even make mistakes. Thank you, Katrinka. I appreciate that. So now I actually only have 6 OMEs on this particular tray. I probably did that because I really like that enamel button, and the pearl really stands out on that. Now normally and all of the, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And someone's asking what OME means.
Other material embellishment. That means this is considered for the first button, this is considered a composition button because that's the base of the button, and you're using different materials to enhance the design. So here you have pearl and then cut steels to make the design on the button. Other material means different than the base material. Now normally you would also count shapes, but since we have star shape above, we counted the star shape and we counted we haven't gotten to it, but there is this, we've counted the star shape and the crescent shape already. So you've already got those points. So those are the realistics. Now you can look for a linear and a contour. A linear is any button that isn't round. And a contour is anything that isn't flat. So I have both here. This particular button, these 2 buttons, they can, either one can be a linear and either, oh, well, this one is linear the lucite button is linear because it's not a round button. And this is a contour button because it's almost a dish shape. It's not a flat button. It's kind of hard to tell on the tray, but it's not flat. It's almost scooped in. So you could get 2 points for your point each for those shapes. I'm actually filling in the tray as I go along. You should always look for a back mark if you can. Oops. I'm trying to make this tray bigger again. Okay. You look for a back mark, and this, if you have a button that has a back mark, you should label on your tray, and this white metal button has a back mark, S.O. Barnum. So that's worth a point on your tray. Bear with me 1 second. I have to get my thing back up here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay. You look for a sew through or back type. And the very first button here has a sew through on it. You look for a movable. I don't have anything on here that's movable. So no point for that. Usage, which is like work clothes or livery, in that category. I also would put uniform in that category, that using a uniform button is something unusual. So you could put the point there. And then the last thing would be rarities. And that is something that is decided between the judges. Usually it's something you don't see very often, or it's really old, sometimes a 18th century or something like that. On this particular tray, I would say probably the rare button would be the enamel with pearl, and or the glass set and metal. Those are two pretty unusual buttons, so you might get 2 points for rarities. Your other judge may disagree, and they may say, no, I don't think that's so unusual. I think it only should be 1 point for rarity, and that often happens. Oops, just filling in the tray, and then I'll figure out how to share that other thing for you. There was a sew through 0, and there was one of that. Okay, now let's see if I can figure out how to get that to go away. And
You have to reshare. You have to stop share and then share again.
okay, thank you. Share screen. What I want to share isn't there. Oh, here it is. Okay. Are you seeing it? My judging
yet.
sheet?
Not yet.
Ah, there you go. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the tray. Here's the sheet. So we went through piece by piece. These are the numbers we came up with. I haven't added, okay. So the most important thing got 2 points apiece, which is the moons and stars and the different qualities that you can find there, the different things that you can find there. And we had a total of 9 points and doubled that to 18. We had 14 materials. So 14, 6 OMEs is 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 27 here in this thing. And now I'm going to add, I'm going to take this section, 18 and 27, 5 and 45, right? Am I adding correctly? Okay, those two to get your totals for that award. And that's basically how you do it. So the one thing you do need to remember is if you're using the big book and you look up moons and stars, not everything on those pages is appropriate. They have things like Estrella, who is a mythological woman. She's got a star behind her head, but it's not the best choice to use on a tray like this, for instance. So don't depend totally on the big book for what you can use on the tray. You really have to read that glossary and see exactly what they had in the back. And that's basically how you would judge this tray. This will be the judging sheet that I will use, and I'll be happy to email it to anybody who wants to get it. You just have to email me at antiquebuttons@gmail.com.
Annie, that's one that you answered my question, and we have two more questions coming up. My question was, is there a place where we could get your idea about different kinds of stars, for instance, and different crescent versus crescent shape? There's nothing in the blue book about.
Well, a crescent shape, I mean, it's a realistic, okay, you know what a crescent shape is. If you look, let me see if I can go back. Let me go back and pull up my,
No,
sorry,
wait.
I can't get them up together. The very first,
I remember that. I remember that. You don't have to pull it up.
okay. The very first button on that tray, that composition with the crescent on top, was a crescent.
Mhm,
And then I had the vegetable ivory, which was actually a crescent shape.
mhm.
So that's the difference.
Did you count that again as a realistic?
No, I put that up there. I mean, I could get rid of the crescent shape and the star shape and just count them as realistics, which would mean you'd get 1 point. But you could have, I put them in the category because I thought they were more important than just a 1 point.
And they
shape
got double
thing.
points. Can you make that, judging sheet so that we see all of it at once? Make it a little smaller?
Oh, I don't know how to do that. Let's see.
Well, we could probably print it out, maybe.
Not
But
sure how-
what I'm asking you is, did you also have a realistic point down below? No.
that was, yeah. Where is it?
You didn't have a realistic, you didn't ask for a realistic point down below.
I did not. Normally, I would have contour, linear, and realistic right down here, right under OME. But since I had it up top, I
Right.
didn't have it down here.
Okay, and to
Okay.
confirm, there's nothing in the blue book that would, unless we got your special information, there's nothing in the blue book that would help a competitor figure out that they could have multiples in the sky, that they could have a star in the scene, etc.
Yes, it is. I just read it right directly out of the blue book in the glossary,
Ah, okay.
right? On page 57, that's exactly what it says. You can have all these things. And because you can have all those things, that's what I based putting together my judging sheet on. Exactly what was in the glossary.
Ah, okay, that's wonderful, helpful. So,
Okay,
Pamela has her hand up and Katrinka had a question.
okay, go ahead. I don't see you, so it doesn't matter. I don't have you on my screen.
Pamela, you have to unmute.
Is it me?
Pamela.
Pam.
Pam.
And Annie, two questions.
Mhm.
I couldn't tell on the one button, but you don't have decorative finish on your evaluation sheet, your judging sheet. But did one of your buttons have some type of finish or a paint on it?
I had luster on a black glass, but you know, decorative finish is, you can put it on there or not. It's not that important. I mean, you're going to get a lot of points. It's more important to look for materials, I think, than decorative finish.
Right.
You
And-
can go through and look for pierced and decorative finish, and you can make the list much, much longer, but it isn't
Right.
always necessary.
Right, and that leads to my second question. It was my understanding that at National, for the primary purpose of the award, in this case, subject matter, why would that not get 3 points and then materials get 2 points and then OME or backmark, et cetera, get 1 point?
You can choose to do it that way. There's no I mean, it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, okay, I thought.
There's no, you know, I just want to make sure that the primary subject matter gets more points than the other stuff. You can do 3, 2, 1.
Okay,
You know, you know, there's no fast rule about that anywhere.
Okay,
Let me put it that way. I know
All
they
right.
do that at national sometimes. I'm trying to make this a little more simpler because,
okay.
you know,
All right, thank you.
we're teaching people what to look at.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Katrinka, you had a question?
You've already answered it, Annie. Thank you.
Oh, okay. It was at the 3, 2, 1?
No, it was the DF question.
Oh.
I was also looking at that and the silver luster and that kind of stuff. But your response that it's optional and not as critical as some of the other criteria.
Yeah,
answered-
that's how I feel about it. As I said, you could put down pierced, you could put down all kinds of things. Are they important? I mean, probably by the time you get the material count and between the 18 and the 14, you might have a clear winner before you count any of this other stuff.
So you're saying that perhaps if the points are very, very close, then we can opt as judges to add other criteria in order to break a tie.
Exactly. And that's where I might use something like decorative finish or pierced, or if they're really, really close, you can always add other things. And there will be things that you as a competitor will think of that I haven't thought of. And you might want to label it. The other thing I want to make clear, especially because we are doing these online, is to label quite a bit. I'm going to go back to my picture. So stop share.
Okay.
Share screen. For instance, you make this a little smaller so you can see all the buttons. You could have a button that could be half sun, half moon. I don't know of one, but I'm just saying you might have something like that. Well, hey, you should get a point for that. You can stick it in the rarities because who would have thought about that, you know? Or you could have a picture of the galaxy where you see the moon and the stars and the sun and everything else. These are all things that might come up. And as a judge, because we call it judging, not science, these are things that might give you weight on your tray. So it's important to label. And this one, I labeled all of my materials and my OMEs, because I figured you could figure out what was a planet and what was a moon and what was a star, but it's important to label, and you always have to label a back mark. You may have this button and know that it has a back mark, but if the competitor didn't list it on there, they don't get that point. So that's another thing to consider. Oftentimes I see people use livery buttons and they don't label the back mark. Well, you know there is one, but they're not going to get that point because they didn't make the effort to write that on the tray. And we don't pull buttons off to look at the backs. So those are the kinds of things, those are the nuances in judging that will come up, especially when you have a very close competition. And we can't predict that ahead of time necessarily. So I did find that as I said before, it's hard to find a scene. Like I had this sun. This was the closest I could find to having a sun, particularly in a scene. But it isn't the focus of the button. I think it stands out quite a bit. So I think in that case, we have to do some lenient thinking a little bit in that particular instance. So are there any other questions?
I have two in me.
Okay,
One is about back marks.
yes.
If I have 3 buttons with back marks, is that still only 1 point?
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. And you only have to put the back mark on one. It could be a studio button and it's signed on the back. And that, that is a back mark as well, not just a manufactured button. So it could be a studio, but you're only going to get 1 point for back marks, even if you had all 15 with back marks. You're still only going to get 1 point.
Okay, and then I don't have my blue book in front of me right now, but I thought when you read the definition that it said that atmospheric elements, like a rainbow and lightning and that stuff, would be included under unlisted.
Yes, but you're not doing, yes, they're not appropriate in this award. Because this
Because
is
it's
not, that's
specified?
included in unlisted in the pictorial in class 20.
Okay,
They're not unlisted for this award. They don't belong in this award. And
okay.
they will get you a measle.
All right, Annie,
Yes.
also, I think they need to remember the studio button rule. What is it? No more than 20%?
20%, yeah, the 20% rule. And that applies to a number of things. You shouldn't have more than 20% of realistics, for instance. You shouldn't have more than 20% of, say, 18th century
Material,
materials, yeah, you're already getting deductions for points on materials because you're not getting credit for
Right.
duplicate materials. So that in this particular award, that doesn't apply. But you're not supposed to,
Realistic.
like, you don't want to have all stars. You don't want to, you want to have at least one of each, that kind of thing. But we spelled that out in the description in the award. But if it just said astronomical, again, you wouldn't want to have all stars. This particular award, you're asked to have one of each of the 5 different categories. So, are there any other questions?
Annie, I have a
Annie?
question.
Yeah.
A quick question of procedure. Are you presenting the other award today, or is that next time?
Well, the other award shouldn't be that difficult for us because we have the shell study, which covers it. I can, so I can talk about it briefly. I don't have pictures. I didn't put together a tray or anything for that because we have gone through the shell classification.
Right.
And the shell award is basically, well, let me get the definition up. Are we
But-
ready to go to that, or do we have any other questions
no,
on this?
I have a
There's a question.
question. I
Yeah.
have a,
Go ahead, Teresa. Yeah.
when you had the definition, the award up, Annie,
Yeah.
because and this is pertinent to all the societies. This award is an old award because we've all been backed up because of the pandemic. Under that award, it's listed as the 2019-2020 Blue Book definitions. We're now using 19-2022.
2022 is the same blue book. It's a sticker that went on top of the 1920
Okay,
thing to make it a
Okay, I
20.
didn't know if there's any different changes. I'm just pointing that a lot of us are working from old awards, and I don't know if any of the definitions have changed. I'm just pointing it out.
It's not a new blue book. It's the same blue book.
Okay,
19 and 20 was extended to 2022. We have not received a new blue book since 19 came out.
okay,
Okay. The new blue book will be coming out this year and it starts in 23.
thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Okay, go ahead if anybody has any other questions about this. I'm looking at your chats. Okay, are you ready to talk briefly about the other award? Hello?
Are you talking to me? I'm sorry, I had to take a phone call.
Oh, I'm talking to everybody. If you want to go a brief thing about the other award.
So, so there was a question about the specificity of this judging workshop. And it is specific to something that we are doing here, but everybody can take the general principles and the general principles remain the same. And everybody will also be able to look at this online on our website and be able to take those principles.
I think that The few things that you can take from this that you need to apply every single time is when you have an award, you look at the class number, you go into the glossary and you read any material in the glossary that's under that class number, whether it's if your award is written in glass, and you go back to the glossary and look up that class number, there will be things in there that it will tell you about. For instance, white is not considered a color, in moon glows or something like that. It's a separate color. Always go to the glossary, read as much as you can before you even start to think about putting together a tray, or when you're in the judging room and you're getting ready to judge, go back to the glossary. You've read the award, you know what's supposed to be in it. Go back to the glossary and read what it says about that particular class, and it will help refresh your memory. So you'll realize certain things that you may have forgot. That applies to any award you do. Try to give a good representation of whatever it is you're doing in any award. Don't overload it with one particular type of thing. That's always important. You're always going to look, almost always, unless it happens to be a shape award, you're going to look for linear, contour, or realistic shapes. You're going to try to get a back mark, sew through, something like that, or pin shank on there. You're going to try to look for usage buttons, because that's thinking outside the box, whether you're using livery or work clothes or uniform. You always should label a back mark no matter what award you're doing. These are all things that apply to any award that you might be working on.
So Annie, I'm very grateful to you for doing the basics like this, because no question is a wrong question, like the question that I asked you that I felt a little silly about because you'd said that, but there's a lot to take in here. So
Sure.
I want to give everybody in New Jersey who is a beginning collector and a beginning competitor a chance to ask any other questions they have. And to thank, before we go to the next competition, to take a quick look at that, I want to thank Annie for putting this together for us. And I want to thank our out-of-state visitors for asking the right questions that I might not have thought to ask her. So we really appreciate your being here. Yes, this is a very specific judging tutelage for the competitions that we have, because that's what we need here in New Jersey right now. So I guess I could start, we could start our videos again and look at each other, and maybe those folks who are not going to be, do you want to unshare screen, Annie?
Okay. Stop the share. Okay.
Right. Yes. Everybody can turn on your video, and we will have time to take a look at that shell competition in a little bit. But I want to give everybody a chance to say goodbye and to thank her, and then whatever time we have for the next 15 minutes, we can talk about that. Does anybody have anything that they want to say or ask at this time?
Oh, you're such good students. No questions.
No, you're a good teacher.
Oh, thanks.
So yes, she does make it very, very easy. I'm a person that makes things complicated. And so whenever I present Annie with a question, she helps me to make things easy and simple. And that's a real gift. What else?
And I would say one other thing, anybody has any questions throughout this, you can always email me or call me. I'm happy to answer questions anytime if you're befuddled about something or confused. I'm happy to, so you can email me, call me. It's usually under any of my emails, my phone number. I'm happy to help.
So I'm wondering what's one thing that you really appreciated knowing, or you really appreciated hearing in Annie's particular way. So you could unmute yourself and just chime in. What's the thing that was helpful to you?
I
Being-
really appreciated being pointed to the glossary first, whether you're competing or judging.
Who is this speaking?
Lori Smurl.
Okay,
Smurl.
Laurie, hi.
I just think that's a real important to emphasize.
Mhm. Laurice, what state are you in?
I'm in North Carolina, but I used to live in New Jersey.
Aha,
And we missed you in Florida, Lori.
Yeah,
You're usually there.
my
Yeah.
doc just wouldn't let me go.
Oh, sorry to hear
I
that.
take immunosuppressants, so I'm right at the top of the list of compromised.
Mm.
well, we're
But
glad you could join New Jersey for a
Yeah.
little bit.
But that brings me to another question. I've looked on your website and I can't find any place where I can join New Jersey.
Oh, yes, that is a serious omission that I realized just recently. I think I think it's there, but I'll double check to make it more prominent. Our dues are
Right.
$10 and we have, I'll put it in the chat, we have your email, so I can email all of those folks from out of state in case you're interested in joining.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Annie, I miss seeing you too.
Yeah. Yeah, we missed seeing you too. Thanks for coming here.
You're welcome. It was a good program.
Eileen, are you about to say something down there in Texas?
No, I just enjoyed the Zoom meeting.
Mhm.
I learned a lot. I have not entered any competitions yet, but I'm still learning.
Okay,
I have to say that for me, it was very helpful to be reminded that we don't have to be crazy and picky and complicated, which I think is kind of what you were saying, Barbara. Sometimes I trip up in my own thinking sometimes. And it was really nice to kind of hear how much is negotiated with the judges and that you do have the opportunity to prioritize something or impose sort of your own values on something. And that's nice. I think rigidity can be an old habit sometimes. And I guess I needed to hear that to make it more fun again.
Good. Well, I think that's important. And you have to remember, a judging sheet is a guide. Even at National, I've had judging sheets where they had things on there that I thought, I don't think that's important. I cross it out. I don't even consider it. Again, unless I get to the point where everybody's so close in points that you have to find a reason for one tray to be better than the other. And sometimes you have to make up something to say, well, this tray's probably better because he's the only one who did XYZ or thought about XYZ. I may not know what that is when I'm making up the judging sheet. I may only know it when I look at the trays. So those are things that a judge has to remember. There are things on there you may not even want to consider, you know.
Any other question? Actually, it's kind of a two-parter. When you're doing this judging and you're coming up with your sheet, do you pre-print your sheet for competition? And number two, do you share with the other judges beforehand?
If I know who the judges are going to be, yeah. I mean, everything's been different, you know, since COVID. Before that, we didn't, you know, I didn't do that because I had to scramble. I never knew who was going to be at the show and who was going to be able to judge, you know, who was going to be there to judge and who entered it and didn't enter it. So if they entered it, they can't judge it, you know. So I don't pre-do that usually.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, any other, Linda, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I was just going to say that's an interesting question, Helene, because different people do it different ways. I know Oregon, no, or Washington have been big fans for years of getting it out ahead of time. And to everybody way in advance. At NERBA, we never did that. So it's just an interesting thing that some people do and some people don't. And it kind of makes a difference until you're used to looking at a lot of judging sheets, because you're guessing, what am I looking for, until you get really into it.
The only drawback about getting everything out there is you're going to have somebody who's going to use a button and they're going to get a point for using this button. And there's nothing on the judging sheet that says they should. And the other people get mad and say, well, you didn't have that on the sheet. So I have that button and I didn't use it. And this person won because they had this button and they got a point for it. And you didn't point that out to me. It's impossible for anybody to do that because you don't know what everybody's going to think about. And there's a gazillion buttons out there, you know, so that's a disadvantage of giving out a judging sheet unless it's the general things. And and it was easy to do a sheet for this particular award because of the extensive description in the glossary and following that. And basically, if you follow what's in that glossary that tells you more about a specific thing, that's what you're going to need to look for. So that's the disadvantage, I think, about passing the sheets out ahead of time, you know, because it shouldn't be like a math test. It should be a little bit more creative than a math test, you know. I mean, that's a personal opinion, but
So it sort of narrows the options.
thinking, yeah, it makes people think so linear and they never think about anything else because it's not on the sheet.
And
That's a good point.
thank you for saying that, because we in New Jersey are trying to encourage less rules and more fun, because that's what we need to do to encourage people to collect buttons seriously. Larice, you were raised your hand.
Yes, we in North Carolina, when we were having competitions, we would get the awards to the award chair, and the award chair would be responsible for writing up a judging sheet for each award. And nobody else saw it prior to the competitions being logged in. And when that stack of trays were handed to the judges, they got the award sheet with the stack of trays.
Yeah, that's how Annie does it in New Jersey too.
Yeah, and it was pretty loose. We didn't make them real detailed.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is an aside. I think this is part of the reason we keep losing people in competition.
Yep,
It's gotten too complicated, too rigid. I'm a big proponent of benefit of the doubt. Try to think of what the competitor was thinking about when they used a particular button before you dismiss it. That kind of thing. And I think that's what I'd like to see us get back to more and more. Instead of trying to we can't answer every question ahead of time, you know, and we can't write a glossary that will cover every single instance. And it's a problem. It's a problem right now, I think, for us in classification.
Well, Annie, we're coming up on the hour, and Annie's promised us to that she will answer our questions, and I invite the novice competitors to do that, to you know, either ask her or ask us to have another quick Zoom meeting, because it's really a lot.
It's a lot to absorb in one meeting. And I think maybe we should just wait on the shell, and I'll try to do that at the next one a little more in depth.
Yeah, I think
But
you're right.
I would recommend to everybody to look at the Zoom shell, the 3-part shell study, because it will reinforce a lot of the things that I'll talk about in the shell category, in the shell competition. Our shell competition is shell with other material embellishment. Again, that OME word. So we'll talk about that. But please, in any virtual award, and actually even in any award, you might want to label it, helps the judges. And in virtual awards, you have to label materials. Usually we can tell, but not always. For instance, that tortoise shell button with the star in the middle, I'm sure everybody probably would think it might be plastic if I didn't label it. Those kinds of things are important in virtual competition.
So you have rejuvenated our desire to look at our buttons and have competition, and you've done it in such a wonderful way. I'm going to, let's see, how am I see? I'm going to say thanks to Annie by clapping like this.
Oh, when is the shell, when is the shell one? We decided we decided it.
The next workshop is the second Sunday in, no, February the 6th.
February 6th, right.
It's, I'll send everybody the Zoom link.
Okay.
2 Sundays from now. Lynn, was that your question, Lynn?
No, where can we find the shell presentation?
YouTube.
YouTube?
Yeah, if you just type in, I think you can type in Annie Frazier shell and it'll pop up. There are three of them, 3 separate ones.
You can also, it's also on our website, NJSBS.com.
Okay, I'm a member of New Jersey, so.
Okay. Thank you, Annie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.